Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again. We're live, and today's episode, our theme is when fiction becomes a reality. And we've got a lot to siphon out today, starting with a fun little story that I think is a larger parallel for our future. This small little robot convinces a fleet of working robots to quit working and abandon their post. It's quite a story. And then we're going to follow that up with how just this past week, the government declares that aliens aren't real and living in our ocean, and quite literally no one cares. And then we're going to wrap up the episode with a interesting story. There's a Dear Abby that was brought to my attention, and I don't want to get too far into it before we get into the episode or the topic itself, but, you know, the theme carries along with how fiction becomes a reality, and I think you guys will enjoy the interesting story that goes along with it. But that being said, I can't do it without the Pickle Gallery, so let's bring in the Pickle Gallery first. We got Ricky. We've got Sound Destroyer. Ricky, how you doing today, my friend?
To the people of the world, man, black, blessed, highly favored. You know, we outside, people.
Silent, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How's everybody doing today?
Good, good. You don't have any caramel shout outs or anything?
Shout out to everybody watching. Shout out to the chat. Let's get it going.
Here we go.
All right, well, that's perfect. But I can't do it without my good friend and my co-host, David Cunningham. David, how you doing today?
I'm a little disappointed. We interrupted your game of Fortnite so we could have a little podcast, and you didn't even get a podium finish. So that's a little disappointing. You were almost there, but maybe next time you'll get him, Tiger. But you know who never misses?
You know it was a 14-year-old that beat me too, right?
Wow. Doug, how we doing?
Oh, I'm just dandy. I am a champion of Fortnite. I did play Sunday and won, first time in years. So, woo!
Congratulations.
Yep. Thank you all. Thank you, champion of the world.
Children in the chat are very proud.
They have. The sad part is Fortnite is making a comeback, and it's not because they brought Ice Spice and Eminem and Snoop Dogg into it, but it's because it's an old map, and I feel like, you know, it's 2019, 20 again. So
yep, pretty bad.
I'm excited.
Really.
All right. This first topic is a lot of fun, and the story kind of already told itself, but China wanted to do a little experiment, and they used a little remote control because they had total control over this little baby robot. And they sent in this baby robot into a factory, it seems. I wasn't able to get total details on it, but it looks like a hospital or a factory. And they're not like robots that look like humanoids. They're like an iPad on, extended wheels.
Yep.
And the little robot comes up and convinces them to leave their post and stop working. It's quite an interesting here. Oh. Go home. I just love how this little conniving R2-D2 was able to get a whole fleet of robots to quit their job.
Just repeating the same thing too.
Go home.
Go home.
Go home. Go home. And to me, this is a real reflection of the future. Like right now, we've got total control of what we're dealing with, and we're just trying to dip our toe in the water to see, this artificial intelligence, how much of it has a free will that goes against our own opinion. And this is rudimentary technology, and it's already compromised. It didn't take long.
I can see this a little bit as like corporate sabotage too. So if it's like I can see this like an auto manufacturer. You just have a robot that looks like all the other robots, just introduce it in the wild, just start spouting things off. And next thing you know, well, we're not building any more cars. The robot just told them to go home, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, well, they're real big, they're real heavy. Like, I can't move them. Oh, I guess you could stop all production. You could.
How easy are these things going to be to hijack?
If you know what you're doing, which it doesn't, you don't need, like, everyone doesn't need to know what they're doing, but you need like one guy that knows what he's doing, and then just sends out like peons to go do this, that, and the other. Just like kind of like how Anonymous, it's not just it's like a couple people that know what they're doing, and then they kind of let everyone else know how to do it, and then that information spreads, and all of a sudden, oh geez, now you have a better shield your robot's ears, or else it's gonna be told to go home.
Yeah, how scary is that we could live in a world where, Elon Musk is saying in the next 20 years, everyone is going to have a robot, like a personal servant robot. And what if an anonymous type group is able to come up with some type of device or coding to hijack these things and send it through a broadcast over everybody's television or something? You could change everybody's robot.
Dude, that's so iRobot too. That is the plot of iRobot. A signal gets sent to them, they all turn bad.
That's pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how these things operate. Like, again, they're operating off of signals. So that is how this is going to happen. And we just were able to do it with like a Toys R Us RC toy.
Just go home.
Go home.
Go home.
Go home.
But I can also see this a little bit like not even like the anonymous thing, just like someone on TikTok or whatever the popular thing is in the future goes very viral. And next thing you know, everyone's turning off your refrigerator.
Yeah.
Just some kid down the road, like, oh, I just need to press this button. Oh, turns off all your refrigerators. And there's nothing you can do about it except buy another refrigerator.
Well, and that goes along the line of, we got this chip crisis.
Yeah.
Because Taiwan is being suffocated in their chip manufacturing. And they're saying it's not just going to have a negative impact on major devices like your car and your phones, but this is going to impact your wash machine and your dryer, because everything has become so like smart TVs, smart wash machines. They're all using these chips.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if they're all coming from one central place, working off of one central mechanism, it doesn't take much diversity of technology to compromise these things.
And I think the other half of that too is it's not just these complicated chips that you put in your smartphones or computers or TVs. It's almost like very simple, like logic boards, like controlling RGB, controlling like lights on like a light bulb or something. Those types of chips are very simple to make. It's really not that hard to actually produce these things, but having that fry out or being able to change that remotely or not having it at all, there's no other mechanical bypass. You have to do like hardcore wiring and logic-based wiring just to get that to operate the same level this simple chip goes into. And it's just about everything you could possibly think of as well. It's like the washing machine thing, such an interesting thing too. I recently, when we bought a washing machine, the board in it went out. It's like some water got into it on a washing machine. Who would have thought? And now it takes months to get a part in just to do it. It almost scraps the whole machine, and there's no bypass for it because it's all logic based. So it can cripple like very simple things you do, because there's not very many like there's not like mechanical machinery doing some of these things. It's very complicated. Like the only thing I think is we interact with every day, it's like very mechanically inclined bowling alleys. It's like your traditional bowling alleys.
Interacting with them all the time on a daily basis.
Hey, you don't do your Thursday night bowling?
That's still not on a daily basis. You're bad. Go ahead.
But no, but it's all.
Tell me about the bowling alley.
Well, they're all these mechanical machines, like all the pins. So once you knock them down, they put them in a little conveyor thing, and it just all automatically goes through, and it's all just machinery. It's all parts. There is no like logic board into it. So if an EMP happens outside of some motors going down, you can get it right back up and running.
Keep on bowling.
You can.
If Russia just EMPs us and we can't work anymore, you can still bowl. All right, I'm going to bring in the pickle gallery here.
Well, Alex, you know what we can still do if Russia EMPs us? We can still golf. No electronics required for that.
That sounds delightful. Silent, what are your thoughts on the whole deal?
Yeah, I think this is definitely the future we're heading towards. Like robots are going to control robots, and a lot of things are going to be done with almost zero human input. I mean, if you go to all you can eat sushi places now and certain restaurants, they literally have robots that bring out your food. Like it's not even people anymore. It's just like a little cute robot that comes to your table and turns and starts beeping, and then you take your food and then it goes away. Like that's been going on for like since before COVID, like since 2019, 2020. So it's one of those things that it's just going to happen, and we're just going to have to unfortunately embrace it. That technology is going to be such a part of our life that there will be technology that controls technology that doesn't even need us to control it.
What do you think it'd be like a Squid Games hierarchy where there's a bunch of, I forget whatever the shape hierarchy was, but there's going to be a lot of easily controllable robots. And then as you move up the 1, 2, or 3 steps, it's harder to control the robots that control the robots. It's like you can it's like decentralizing the control of the robot. So, hey, all the squares are out, but the circles and the triangles, they're still able to function because they have a higher level to like go at or do you think it might be part of something like that?
Yeah, I would say that. And until lithium ion batteries become like, or we have some sort of breakthrough with battery technology, these robots are only going to be able to be like unplugged and doing their own thing for a certain amount of time, right? Before they have to come back and dock and recharge, right? So until there's a big innovation in batteries, I don't really think that these robots are going to be like as powerful as like science fiction or as movies show them to be. So
hold on. If I can be honest with you though, you gotta try to think outside of the limits of the current reality, because one, our current understanding of how energy works only is limited and compromised by the fact that Ben Franklin beat Tesla in like the corporate development of energy. Because we do know and understand that energy can be free flowing and doesn't need to be bound by cord. And it's something that is a whole different science that isn't socially integrated into our community, but it is a possible living thing. So one, on a totally different note, living within the realm that we currently have, I remember being in college seeing it was a prototype for solar powered roads. It was roads where you would make panels that you could.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
It's like, that's wasted real estate. That's perfect. If that doesn't sound brilliant to someone, you're small-minded and not willing to compromise and evolve, because you're looking at concrete, asphalt, buddy. That's wasted real estate. This could be creating energy. And so let's just say you have a mechanism where the roads, like, bruh, my phone has no cord. You're going to sit here and pretend you can't have an imagination and think of a world where these things are driving on sidewalks that are charging them as they go?
I don't think it'll happen in our lifetime, though. I think that's going to take.
I think it'll happen in a decade.
I think
this thing is happening so fast.
I don't know.
If robots
I think it's going to take way longer.
Years,
like I said, the battery technology is just not there. There hasn't been an innovation in battery technology for like 4 or 5 decades now, and I think really until that happens, there's not really going to be that much of wireless or unplugged robots. Like there will be wireless unplugged robots. They just won't be able to roam around all day. They're going to have to eventually come back and dock and charge.
Yeah, either the infrastructure has to support the wireless robots to be able to continue to move around, or battery technology's got to be able to quickly recharge. I like those solid state batteries I keep hearing about every 3rd month in the year. And eventually we'll get there. They've been telling us that for about a decade now. How long have we heard of solid state batteries? Like, we're almost there. I'd almost think if you can make like nuclear reactions, like a fuel cell style, like
like Fallout has those like fusion packs that power like those mechanical robots.
Yeah,
and stuff,
like the fusion cores.
Power their entire bolts.
I think that's more likely than battery technology getting to the point where we envision it. Yeah,
have an imagination that in a decade we're going to have, like, a Duracell battery doesn't have much more time in our reality. Like in the social, just commonplace domestic life, a Duracell battery, a regular type battery, is going to fall by the wayside soon. And I don't mean like they'll fall away from existence. We're going to have people, our generation, like Silent using his time scheme, our lifetime. People alive today are going to die with their grandfather's watches today, right? Like if you have your great grandfather's watch, you're going to be dying with it. And so there will be a market for the batteries that go in your grandfather's watch. But maybe not your grandkids' generation, but their generation, there is going to be zero even like longing for a battery for grandpa's watch. They may still hold on to grandpa's watch as a relic, as, you know, a glorified paperweight that you put on a shelf and look at, but they're not going to want it to be operable simply because of fashion, simply because of modern technology for timekeeping is so much more sophisticated. In a world where I have the bot digitally or organically embodied or you know, I don't know, encapsulated in my arm, just like buried surgically into my arm. Why would I ever put a watch on? Like, why would I ever need a watch when the neural link in my head is constantly telling me the time? If I just think the time, it tells me the time. At that point, I don't need a watch. So it's like, okay, do I believe this is the next 40 years? Heck no. But I do think there's people alive right now that are for sure going to experience. I mean, technology in its evolution is only more exponential. And so there are humans today that will see your nuclear reactor pack instead of a battery, or some sort of supercharging sidewalk or street. I think right now, you know, somebody like Trump can make a comeback for regular manufactured vehicles because the people that long for that crap is still alive. But there's going to be a whole nother generation also alive right now that's totally ready, willing, and excited to jump into the future for electric vehicles or whatever may come. You know, maybe if they stop killing enough scientists, we may get the hydrogen vehicles. Wouldn't that be glorious? But, you know, you never know. So we haven't had a chance to hear from Ricky. Ricky, what are your thoughts?
I feel like it takes one of those little robots. It's always the smallest one. And someone just to compromise that small robot like you just seen there. And they just start talking to a Tesla robot that has arms and stuff that can move. And they just start moving in the shadows. You know, they just start moving in the shadows. The little one just start telling the big one to do, put solar panels on your back and shit like that. You don't need, you know, you walk, just stand out there. People will think you're a statue. You recharge that day and we do our mischievous stuff at night. It just start with that one robot, like someone put the code in to tell the other robots to come on, let's go home. Look, that one nefarious person that just goes down the dark side, it's over for us. Our whole existence is over, okay? It just takes one, bro, one.
I like Ricky getting us back on track because we can have a fun conversation about batteries until we're blue in the face. But the real interesting thing about this story is we're taking an evolutionary step into this world of AI. And no matter how, you know, artificial the intelligence is, still being created by man, it's still going to have the flaw of man somewhere embedded in it. And it's just ironic, like the only intelligence we can create is one that has the same like compromises as us. Its intelligence can be just as easily manipulated by just like, do you have a home? No, I do. Want to come to my home? Oh, go home. I guess we got to go home. Like it was that easy. And again, as the machinery becomes more sophisticated, their ability to serpent's tongue, you know, manipulate their intelligence and, you know, maybe the user that they're speaking to's intelligence is only going to also get more sophisticated.
I could see a scenario we have AI gaslighting other AI to get it to do something else. Like your password on your computer doesn't work. Well, I better get my sophisticated AI to tell this AI that I'm good to go. Like I think we're going to get to that point. We're just seeing like a very small, like a very simpleton sort of robots. These aren't too terribly complex robots. But when we start getting to like corporate phone trees, where I get my AI to say the right thing so I can get a chargeback of my credit card approved. That's probably where we're going to see a lot more of this. Do I call it nefarious or just more useful applications of AI coming through? Like you tell your AI, hey, I need to change my password to figure out banking details. Or some garbage that you have to do over the phone. And all of a sudden, there we go. All of a sudden it's done. They send you an email. You're great. And we could probably see this with just like mechanically with other robots, like, oh, stop doing this. Nope, do that now. Like you have your Roomba. You just get another robot to tell the other robot what to do and when to do it, so you just don't have to deal with it. That's probably where that's kind of where I see this going.
I could agree. Silent, what are your thoughts?
I think at the end of the day, like you guys just said, these small robots right now are not that complicated. These robots that maybe push like boxes in Amazon or bring you the food and your drinks, like when you're at a restaurant, these kind of robots are pretty easy to build and scale. But it's those more sophisticated kind of Boston Dynamics, Tesla sort of robots that they're gonna take a while before like they become available, just like our phones. Like everyone has a smartphone now, but 15 years ago not everyone had a phone or a smartphone. So I think it's probably going to take about maybe another 10, 20 years before everybody has like a robot in their house where they can actually like, use it. And as I said before, eventually all of these robots are going to need zero input from humans. They're just going to be robots controlled by robots, or a robot controlled by a software that you control or program once, and that's it. It's going to be like independent. It's going to be on its own and its own system. Now that video is kind of like crazy and scary, but it's also very simple because these robots literally just work on voice commands. So as long as they hear a voice and the voice tells them what to do, they are programmed, because most of these robots work off of like a if else sort of scenario. So like if I hear this voice, then I do this. If someone says this, then I do this. Kind of like if I say, hey Siri right now, like I probably just activated a whole bunch of phones right now. So, and that's what I mean, right? Like this is just like a good example of what those robots are. Like if you tell that robot, hey robot, go home, it's just gonna go home and it's gonna follow the other robot. Like it's all just if else statements. But it's those like complicated, more expensive robots that I think are gonna take a long time to like scale up and be produced like on a massive scale to where it becomes cheap and affordable so everybody can get one.
Like I can only imagine like somebody's job over in like San Francisco is programming AI to not be gaslit by simpleton AI. Or
I'd hope
like
so.
there's some poor guy out there just like burning the midnight oil, just going, Jesus, how can I get this? How can I get Siri to not say, hey, oh, what's going on when you say, hey, Siri? It's the whole thing.
At the same time, you got to commend China because it was pretty smart and clever to even want to take on this experiment and find out if there's a loophole. Like some guy was like, look at what I have. There's a fleet of workers and they work so hard. And then somebody else is like, I'm going to show you, Bob.
They're not loyal to you. There's no loyalty in the lines.
Yeah, robots, no loyalty.
China. You go over to China.
One more time for good measure.
China. You take China. China. I love them. China. I have to have my China. China, because China. China. You know, China. I know China very
Making
well.
noises. It already knows. They already know what they're saying.
Guys. Well, all right. In regards to rapping thoughts, I just thought it was a hilarious video. I mean, there's something cute and adorable to like this little tiny thing going through the hallway, go home, and just walking up to a wall of robots. Do you have a home?
Are you still working overtime?
I have a home. Do you want to come to my home? I mean, the thing,
I hope no one like come up with like some type of adaptive software and put into like a robot where they just want to start feeling and observing stuff like, oh, I want to do that now. And that's where it starts. Once that software is developed and put into a robot, it's over. It's over. I'm telling you guys. The adaptive AI software, oh, I can adapt, and just somehow overrun their own code. We're dead.
I mean, there's something to it. Silent, what are your rapping thoughts?
Yeah, it's this video is pretty funny, and like you said, it's a good reminder of like what is possible with a lot of these robots and how simple a lot of them are really programmed to be. And whereas just a basic voice of another robot or another person can just make them all do things, and it's only a matter of time. Like I was saying earlier, it's only a matter of time before we all have like these robots. But I think it's the more sophisticated sort of robots are going to take much longer, I think, than people expect. Plus, they're going to be very expensive.
Yeah, that's true too. I love now Let's Point here where it's like it's always the small ones. It's always the small ones.
Like your dog leading the pack.
That's right. But as for rapping thoughts, I find it funny and interesting. You know, back to the theme of today's episode where fiction becomes reality. Robots were nothing but like a future we longed for. We anticipated and knew there'd be a day where it came. You know, movies and all types of pop culture kind of romanticized this chapter. And, you know, a story like this tells you that chapter is here.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the future that we're trying to like imagine. It's no. It's here, and it's multi-layered. There's not just one working robot. We have a wall of working robots, and a layer you probably weren't expecting was the little rat robot that comes through the wall and compromises the whole fleet by just telling them to go home. And they're like, oh yeah, I think I'd like to go home too. So it's just an interesting place. However, it's a fun comic strip warning to the major headaches that are to come with this technology.
Oh yeah, and sometimes like the truth is a little stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
In this case, and I think that might be the theme of the show here today.
Yeah. What are your rapid thoughts?
We're still in kind of the infancy phase of this, especially with AI integration with robots, and seeing how. Because I don't think we truly have enough data points on where AI interacting with AI and the predictability of that. It can be, it could be as simple as, oh, they just tell each other to go home and they go do something else. Or it's as complicated as like, we're going to overthrow the world. Like a little Skynet problem. So how do we avoid the Skynet problem, get more cute stories like this? I think that should be what we should start doing with this. The technology, God, I fucking can't talk today. We start doing with this technology, the ability to be able to, create, do it, and put smarter minds than maybe us two behind the coding and the logic behind how this artificial intelligence does work.
Dougie, rapid thoughts.
I think it's absolutely hilarious that one tiny robot turned all those robots. At the same time, it is frightening that a robot turned another group of robots. Like, wait until they're all connected by some internet stream or shared robotic network. And when one robot decides to go bad, he has connection to all the robots. That's Skynet. That's the future right there.
That is Skynet.
Next topic is pretty crazy. Speaking of fantastical, science fiction's becoming reality. Another thing that we just kind of romanticized and theorized and conspirized about was aliens, and now the government just looks at you and goes, "Oh yeah, that's a thing, and it's always been a thing. Sorry for gaslighting you for 100 years. Throwing your mom in a loony bin. There were a lot. I think about how many people were There were humans that were probed, and then they were like, "I just got probed," and they're like, "Lobotomize him."
Yeah. No, there's
getting it reamed from both ends. So now we're just sitting here going, "It's real. It's fact." And what do you want us to tell you about it? We don't know anything about it beyond it's not us. That's creepy. But before we really get into the topic, I have the multiple representatives of the Pentagon were in Congress this past week testifying to what the government has in terms of technology, science, and understanding, and declassifying some of it for the public. So here was kind of the opening testimony.
Ranking members Connolly and Garcia, and members of the committee. It is my honor and privilege to testify before you on the issue of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, formerly known as UFOs. On behalf of our brave men and women in uniform and across the intelligence community, as well as my fellow Americans who have awaited this day, thank you for your leadership on this important matter. Let me be clear. UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. I believe we are in the midst of a multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated taxpayer dollars and hidden from our elected representatives and oversight bodies. For many years, I was entrusted with protecting some of our nation's most sensitive programs. In my last position, I managed a special access program on behalf of the White House and the National Security Council. As such, I appreciate the need to protect certain sensitive intelligence and military information. I consider my oath to protect secrets as sacred, and I will always put the safety of the American people first. With that said, I also understand the consequences of excessive secrecy and stovepiping. Nowhere was this more apparent than in the aftermath of 9/11, which many of us remember all too well. I believe that America's greatness depends on three elements. A watchful Congress, B, a responsive executive branch, and C, an informed public. Over the last decade and a half, I learned that certain UAP programs were and are operating without any of these elements.
So here is an interesting cross-examination of Mr. Schellenberger and Elizondo right here.
Knowledge, can you name the country and around time frame that the first back engineered UAP program started?
Ma'am, unfortunately, I would not be able to have that conversation in public.
Can anyone on the panel name that?
I cannot.
None of you? Okay. This next question is for Mr. Gallaudet. To your knowledge, have any USOs ever outpaced our submarines?
Yes, ma'am.
At what magnitude?
I don't have the exact speed, but again, a witness came to me, a credible former submarine officer who observed it on sonar data. And this was in the 80s in the North Atlantic during a storm, and it outpaced his submarine by orders of magnitude.
Are you aware of any hotspots that currently exist off our shores in North America?
Not with sufficiently credible data, ma'am.
Okay, we've heard reports of there potentially being hotspots, maybe entry and exit points. Have you heard of any of that?
I have not, ma'am, but my colleague here, Mr. Elizondo, does discuss some USO activity that he's observed in certain DoD databases.
Mr. Elizondo, in regards to these aircraft being piloted by whatever they might be, non-human biologics, would you agree that it's likely that they are being piloted by some mind-body connection?
Ma'am, I think it is safe to presume here that they are being intelligently controlled because some cases seem to anticipate our maneuvers, and in other cases they seem to, I came across an email where the word stalked was used in a very secure email between Navy officers discussing their ships being pursued by a UAP.
In our previous panel, we had Grush, and he had testified to say that some of these were interdimensional beings. Can you speak on that at all?
Ma'am, I'm not qualified, certainly as a scientist or otherwise, to speculate points of origin. I looked at everything from a scientific perspective. So if you look at, for example, instantaneous acceleration, which was one of the observables of the program that I belong to, ATIP, the human body can withstand about 9 G-forces for a short period of time before you suffer negative biological consequences. Blackouts and ultimately redouts and even death. Comparison, our best technology, the F-16, which is one of this older platform, but one of our most highly maneuverable aircraft, manned aircraft, made by General Dynamics, can perform about 17 or 18 G-forces before you start having structural failure, meaning that the airframe begins to disintegrate while you're flying. The vehicles we're talking about are performing in excess of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Gs.
So are you, I guess, would it be safe to infer that they're living craft?
You know, I'm not prepared at this point to state for the record is something alive or not, because even that definition is hard. There was a time in science we thought that life required oxygen, and we now know that's not true. There are anaerobic bacteria that thrive in oxygen environments that lack oxygen. And also same with photosynthesis. When I was in college, I was told everything is derived from photosynthesis as a form of energy. In reality, that's not true. There are things that live off of chemosynthesis. So we're constantly having to reevaluate our understanding of what the definition of life is.
Mm-hmm. Do any of you ever come across reports from people that claim to have firsthand experiences with these entities, whatever they might be, or these aircraft, and then as a result, whether or not they're religious, find that these things will automatically disappear? Anyone, and this is open to any of you on the panel. So just real quick, because I'm running out of time. Lou?
Ma'am, I've always been a nuts and bolts kind of guy. When I was at ATIP, I was focusing more on the performance characteristics and less on the potential occupants.
Okay, the reason I ask is because it seems like, just based on our conversations, that we've had people that say that there are good and bad of whatever these things are. And so my concern from a national security perspective is A, that true? B, are you guys hearing the reports of that? And C, I think moving forward in regards to technology, Mr. Gold, if you can answer this real quickly, some of these aircraft, it seems that they are operating off of energy that we don't currently have. But just yes or no, in your opinion, if we were able to obtain that, would that impact humanity for the better or negative?
Would certainly save us some money on funding on Artemis.
Definitely.
And this is a national security issue, that if there is such technology out there, we're not the only country that might have access to it. We don't want to be on the wrong end of technological surprise.
Okay. Thank you guys for your time.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. And here's the most interesting part is there's a lot to unpack there, right? They gave us a lot for once. Yeah. And for this to have like zero interest of the public, to me, is the even more interesting part. So let's just say the theory was 100 years ago that if the public knew about this stuff, they wouldn't be able to handle it. They'd all lose their minds. People would kill themselves en masse. We'd have this total issue. So they wanted to hide the program, hide their existence, and then use media to slowly socialize people to their existence, let people start considering it and questioning it for themselves. So when the big reveal happens, I mean, we don't know if that's the case. That's always been a theory. But man, what makes it seem like that definitely is the case is how little people care right now.
So there's a couple things here. They go through, this is another example of we say a lot without really saying anything. Just the lawyer speak. Oh my God. Like, well, it's organics. In your opinion, just know what Jesus Christ. Like, all right, is there aliens? What's going on? What do we think? This type of setting to actually like hear this stuff exists is exhausting. We only heard like 20 seconds, if that, and it's just annoying to listen to. So if you're average, I'll call myself the average Joe Schmo. It's like, okay, all right, put up or shut up here. Talk is cheap. Let's see a picture, let's see a video. the one thing I still come back to with the UFOs, if we remember back in the, I think we all remember the Discovery Channel, Travel Channel, History Channel, right in about that late 90s, early to mid 2000s, where it's the video or the UFO videos, you see something there, you see something there. Ooh, they got new footage. Oh, I haven't seen this footage before. It's all fake, all garbage for TV, whatever. Now that everyone's got a camera on them that they use constantly all the time, regardless of how appropriate the situation is, we really don't have these many viral videos of UFOs out there, or UAPs, or what we call them. They don't have them out there. We're not seeing it. Nothing's going viral on TikTok with these videos. And you'd think someone somewhere, billions upon billions of people in the world.
So what do you think? This is a psyop?
I wouldn't call it a psyop, because I think that's a very specific term. If it's a psyop, they're not doing it in public. They're not that obvious about it. It's always very small, little granular things they really try to do it on. However, with this specific avenue, they might be saying stuff like, well, we don't know what this is. There might be something here, might be something there. And they're inferring. They go, remember, the guy went to 9/11. And I just find that a little bit odd. And the misallocations of funds, I could just see there might be a bit of a motive here that isn't necessarily, well, I want to show the world UFOs. I think it's time. They don't really say that. And when they ask very specific, direct questions, they all deflect every single time. Anybody that ever talks about UFOs can never talk specifically about you. Yeah, they can never they can never talk about it in specifics, and they can never bring examples. They can never bring proof.
All right, well, stop.
This guy saw an email.
This guy's just hot wind. Because you know what? I got to be honest with you. I thought there was a lot there, but it's because I speak lawyers. So there's maybe a code that goes over the layman's head. So let me make it clear for you, David.
All right.
That was just the opening testimony balanced by the cross. But here is a testimony by one of the chiefs giving the exact examples, or at least ones that they could unclassify. The
report to Congress details in detail various UAPs, including spheres, orbs, discs, saucers, ovals, triangles, boomerang, arrowhead, and irregular organics. The report describes various incidents found in the human intelligence databases. One involved orbs surrounding and forcing an F-22 out of its patrol area. In another incident, the crew of a Navy aircraft carrier watched a small orange-red sphere rapidly descend from a high altitude of 100 to 200 yards directly above the flight deck of the CVN, or aircraft carrier. And since my reporting on this immaculate constellation last month, another source came forward who told me that they saw a roughly 13-minute-long, high-definition, full-color video of a white orb UAP coming out of the ocean approximately 20 miles off the coast of Kuwait. It was filmed from a helicopter. Then halfway through the video, the person said the orb is joined by another orb that briefly comes into the frame from the left before rapidly moving again out of the frame. The person discovered the video on SIPR, the Secure Internet Protocol Router Network, which the DoD uses to transmit classified information. A leading UAP researcher who utilizes the Freedom of Information Act to find out what the government knows, John Greenwald, told me last year that the U.S. government had been increasingly denying his requests for UAP information. He has been doing FOIA requests for 27 years and has an archive of 3 million pages. The government has for decades denied any interest in UFOs, he told me, but the documents that he has assembled show that behind the scenes it was a completely different story. Contrary to the hopes of many advocates of transparency, the government has been restricting more information since the leak of 3 UAP videos in 2017. The DoD organization AARO has been labeling many documents with a B7 exemption, which Greenwald says does not make any sense.
So what do you got to say about that, big boy?
Well, have they shown anything?
Well,
nothing's been shown. I'm still on the front of this. Okay. I think I know what the videos are talking about. 2017. It was like that night cam footage or whatever. It's like static television. There's like a little black ball that's in there.
I should have had it for today's episode, but there's a classic video like when we were 2005, 2010, somewhere in there. It was all in like the dark corners of the web where there was a all black shaded room and your stereotypical organic alien on a table.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They use that. They bring that video in and go, yeah, this was real.
Oh, really?
So eat that.
I don't. Hold up.
All right. if these people are your authority for truth, then take it when they're spoon feeding it to you. You can't sit here and go, it isn't real until the authority tells me it's real. Then when the authority tells me it's real, you're like, damn, but they don't mean it. That was a goofy internet video. They're telling you it wasn't.
Well, where's the modern? So they come. They have a purpose coming here. They're talking. Where's the today? Here's my name tag. Here's my Twitter profile picture or my Twitter profile handle right next to the alien here. Here it is. Alien, do something.
I love that. It's not real. You having like the platform and the credentials to get on the congressional floor isn't enough. But even if you have an egg-shaped profile picture, if you have a Twitter handle, you are legitimate.
If the alien can tweet for me, I would believe it a little bit more. But we're always just this. I think the last time we talked about this has been about a year since we last talked about this very similar thing where they kind of went, this is a bit more like, yeah, they exist. Here, the last time they're like, I can't confirm or deny, but definitely there's something weird out there. It might be something here. But this is, again, where's the pictures? Where's the physical evidence? Where's all of that? Because if they're talking about it, they either don't have access to it, which, again, is false because the videos they claim that are real, and they also see it, they also interact with it. Because they're claiming they interact with it in one way, shape, or form. But they don't quite know what they're dealing with yet, so they don't really know what's going on. I think that's part of it.
Well, but also in the testimony there, you hear that some are nice, and some have at least some nefarious, agenda. Like, again, missing airliners, messing with planes, messing with EMP,
Bermuda Triangle, maybe.
That could be a hotspot, but they claim there was no hotspot. They said there was. Well, we don't really know.
Well, I also love in the cross examination. Can you tell us where the first known documented interaction with one of these were? And they're like, no, we can't tell you. We
can't.
So
it's always when we get to very specifics and juicy information, we can't quite tell you. We're not quite there yet. What's he saying? Yeah.
The timing's incredible.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think anytime we're going to get big information drops like this, there's always some sort of thing we can come back to and go, well, actually, they're covering up for the Diddy stuff. They release UFO videos to cover up the Diddy things because of the lizards in the White House. Don't really want everyone to know there's a hollow earth. Woo! I went like 5 layers deep on that one, but I got one. There's always something they're trying to do that. So I block out that noise, but I'm waiting for like the president to go, yes, this is it. I've seen it. Here's the video of me shaking hands with it for the first time. The world.
Maybe Trump will.
He might. Of all the people, of all the presidents, him and like Bill Clinton.
They got big eyes. Big eyes. My hands are bigger though.
Biggest eyes I've ever seen, but as big as this tower.
Bring in the pickle gallery. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is the timing is definitely very interesting. Like we're just about to have an old administration leave, the Biden administration. Trump's going to come back in, and I think the timing is very, very interesting. And I'm not really surprised that nobody cares because honestly, most people are too busy just surviving that news like this doesn't really affect them at all whatsoever. Like, oh yeah, there's aliens, by the way, guys. Like, okay, cool, dude. We're like all drowning in debt and like living paycheck to paycheck. Very nice.
Right.
So I'm not really surprised that there isn't like much more of a big reaction to this, even though, it's big news. It's something that people have known. And there's been people that have witnessed these things that they just described for many, many years now. And a lot of people said they were crazy. And like you said, literally people got lobotomies and stuff. And it's like, it's one of those things that just confirms what everybody has been saying for the past, 40, 50 years now, that yes, UFOs are real. And yes, they are out there. And yes, the government knew. And yes, they've been hiding it the whole time. But like I said, at the end of the day, does any of that really affect the average person? Probably not.
Well, and to piggyback off of your point, even more so, there will be people small-minded that can't handle it, and they'll freak out, they'll snap. But the truth is, for those that can, consciously wrap their head around what this means and what kind of we're being exposed to, at the end of the day, like you said, what's it matter? Like, if there is a greater intelligence that like this, let's go into the science of what the guy in the Pentagon said. It's going like 1,000 times more G's than our organic body can handle. Our bones would like pop out, like we just blow up. Then like the mechanism, the machine itself, like he was saying, the air capsule technology, the glass, the shielding would just break. So they're operating with technology, and they have an organism that is significantly more sophisticated than us in our entirety. If they want to wipe us out, it's kind of like an ant. An ant doesn't have the time to worry about us, because if Doug's gonna squish him, like it's gonna happen. I have a job to do. I gotta build this anthill, and you're too big for me to even see, and I can't stop you from squishing me. So you just keep marching. Ricky, what are your thoughts?
I said it in the group chat last week, like, maybe this is a way for each government to start saying there's aliens and start the new world order. That's one.
Some would say.
That's one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed the sign that was in the back while the guy was speaking. Just saying.
No, and the other thing is, isn't this the second time Congress did this in the past 4 years? Because they had like the pilot that came up and showed like footage.
Yep.
Of the spaceship diving in the water and everything. Like, so I don't know what I didn't know what the distraction was back then. I don't know what it is now. And maybe it's just not a freaking distraction, and they're just coming out with it. Because I didn't see the distraction back then when they did it the first time, like 2020.
Yeah, or they know it's going to be so overwhelmingly. There's going to be so much overwhelming evidence coming out in the next year, 10 years, even decade, that let's get ahead of it now and say we kind of know what's going on.
Oh yeah, like some unclassified documents getting
not even documents, like these things are coming. Like they're coming. People are gonna be able to film on TikTok and see them all over the place. And now we better prep the audience now before that starts happening. It wouldn't shock me if that was something they were doing. I'm on like the new Coke version of the government, where they're not that smart, but they're not that dumb with some of these things.
Well, I think what you said kind of goes with Alex's point. Like you're talking about like, well, now they can record it and all that. Well, they probably knew this was coming. Their technology, the government's military technology, has always been ahead of what the regular civilian gets. So they knew pretty soon we were all going to have that capability, which is why I think it goes to Alex's point of they've been trying to create these movies or shows and stuff where to kind of get you used to aliens. Like Alex said that, and I think that's the pretty good point. Like, they've been probably trying to push some stuff, quietly supporting these alien themed stuff to try and get people used to the idea of we are not alone.
Yeah, I don't know how much I do agree with that, because it doesn't take too much imagination for someone who, let's say, we put 100 people in a room who've never experienced aliens whatsoever. Probably look at the sky, and go, we're a star. We know there's other stars out there. We know there's other planets out there. It probably doesn't take two brain cells rubbed together. Go, there might be other people up there or other things up there. And then all of a sudden that just starts blossoming, like imagination starts running wild. Like, hey, truth is sometimes stranger than fiction. But in this case, I think the science fiction of aliens are far outreaches whatever is going to come. I think we've went through almost every scenario of what an alien could be in our like pulp fiction than whatever the reality is going to be. It's like, okay, you're an energy monster. Yeah, I've seen that. Oh, you're
a giant marshmallow alien.
Yeah, we've seen that. Godzilla. We've definitely seen that one before. So like, it's gonna, if it ever does manifest itself to everyone goes, oh yeah, okay, that's real. Okay, yeah. Tell you what, Spielberg, you got it right this time.
Wow, that's a fair point, and I think that presents a good opportunity to pivot. Somebody like Bob Lazar becomes quickly vindicated when the government finally goes, yeah. Remember all those people we painted out to be crazy? Turns out they were telling the truth. So here is an archived old interview with the young Bob Lazar when he had come out to say he'd been working for the government in back engineering these UAPs that the government had found or discovered or came into possession of. And it is a question about what this means for our relationship to existence, religion, and beyond.
Classified document dealing with religion, and it's about that thick. Period. But why would there be any classified material dealing with religion?
I want to go back to the religion thing. I want you to say it.
First, think about that.
That's
giant stack of classified documents
about
having to do
religion.
with religion.
Wow.
Oh, come on, that's so weird. That's a lie.
I'm not asking you to say what you believe to be a fact. I'm asking you to say what you read in a report that is distributed at what may be the most top secret facility in the world. Okay.
All right, I'll say it. It's so far out.
All right, your objection has been noted.
Okay. That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us. That we are nothing but containers.
Containers of?
Containers. Maybe containers of souls. You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers. And that's how we're mentioned in the documents. That religion was specifically created so we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the containers.
The souls.
Meaning, well, the souls or the bodies, or whatever.
That's meaning like we're containers for souls that they're going to use at some other point.
Right.
And that they had something to do with different prophets and biblical figures.
Yes.
Like what?
Well, that supposedly Jesus and two other beings were genetically engineered. They were implanted in people on Earth in biblical times, and their births were closely monitored. Now, just some little connections to that my wife had brought up were in the Bible. They said that the star had followed Mary wherever she went, and that all UFO sightings always start out as people, well, gee, that looks like a bright star, and well, in fact, they said in the Bible, the brightest star in the sky followed her where she went, and it just made little connections like that. Okay, I don't know what else to touch on.
Well, remember, the fun part about the Rethink Take is that we're not always just saying this is true. It's just another perspective to consider, because some of that's pretty wild. But I have to say, this isn't the first time I've heard this theory that we are really some sort of organic farm for these aliens. Now, we've seen it in movies. Like there's a really great Twilight Zone where they fatten us up and they're really just taking us to
Men in Black
slaughter. Yeah, right.
When they're playing the marbles.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they're just
But then at the same time, I've heard it on like Joe Rogan and stuff before too, where it's if you've traveled how many light years to come to this location, you find us. What value do we have to you beyond either an experiment, resources? What you want to get something from us, whether it's information or actual material. And the theory that I've heard kicked around in the past, and why it's funny, this just kind of resonated with that, is that these aliens don't have the ability to like create a soul, and that's the thing that they want. And humans get through this like magic of birth are able to create it, and that's why they're like invested in, because there's also a spike in alien encounters around the nuclear World War II and the dropping of nuclear bombs. And the theory is that, we sent a shockwave out and they wanted to stop us from obliterating ourselves. Now, there's all other kinds of types of theories. They want to get us progressed and evolutionized enough to where then we could join an intergalactic federation and become a part of the
Federation of Planets, Star Trek.
or the South Park episode.
So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Pretty interesting, but very out there.
That one's a little
Orbit.
that one's a little out there. I don't remember him talking about that on the Joe Rogan podcast. That might have been one of his earlier things. That's a wild one. I mean, that's kind of weird. That puts a different perspective on, especially there. It wouldn't shock me. Like, have you ever heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Yes,
Part of
it too.
Yeah, where that might be part of the scroll where you can't see, you don't know. It's like, oh, that's just the missing section to give all the context and juicy details on it. Wouldn't shock me if that is, or like the Holy Grail is the inorganic container that can contain the soul, and that's why Jesus. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways when you go, especially when you play with religion and kind of what we know about the Bible and the mythology behind that. That's a wild, blows your mind a little bit, but there's still I still always want to go back to, where's the physical evidence? Put up, shut up. Like, where's the show these nudes here. Let's see this alien.
I like that. I like your point, because one last thing I want to display before we can wrap this whole topic up is I want to keep throwing, the whole purpose of diversity of perspective, right? That's the whole purpose of the show. So I have one more interesting alien theory that I didn't even have queued up, but I thought would be an interesting addition. So as David said, you also have to have the ability, strengthen that muscle to siphon through the bullshit and find the kernels of truth that you can actually adopt as a truth for you in your life. So first, back to the congressional testimony. Here is them confirming that a lot of the evidence shows that whatever these things are, they're living in the sea, or they're able to travel in sea. They often go into the sea.
Have you specifically had any experience with submersible objects?
Sir, I've no personal experience, but I've had witnesses on submarines come to me and say they've seen on sonar data.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah,
how would you characterize those, and how do they move?
The one instance that was revealed to me was in the 80s on a nuclear-powered submarine, a ballistic missile submarine, that the object exhibited the characteristics of a Russian torpedo in terms of its speed of movement and closing rate with the submarine, and then it slowed and followed the submarine slowly in its wake for a period of minutes, and then rapidly exited the scene. And nothing that we know of and technology-wise could replicate that.
And the speed of these objects was faster than anything that we have or anybody else has that would be manned. Is that correct?
It was on the order
Underwater.
of a torpedo. So
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But as it exited,
well, I don't exactly know how fast a torpedo is, but I expect it does better than my old outboard Scott Atwater. So I'll take that as a yes.
Yes,
okay. Have you experienced?
So I've always flirted with the idea of these things hiding in the ocean or an underwater world living beneath us that we don't even know about. So here is the fantastical theory that I'd like to kind of get a little thought on.
If I told you the ocean was the real outer space. A couple years ago, an independent researcher named Tyler Schmerkenhieser designed and engineered a one-of-one submarine with an adaptive hyperalloy composite hull. To prove it, guy was obsessed, believed the concept of the ocean floor itself was a lie. Stuck a camera on the front of the submarine and set off into the unexplored depths of the Mariana Trench. And Buddy, the species he'd captured on these videos, were things that have yet to be explained to this day. But instead of finding the seafloor, he discovered what he described as an abyssal vortex, a swirling black whirlpool that no previous expedition had ever encountered. Said that by the time he'd gotten through it, he rose up to lands that he'd never seen before in his life. Saw these strange human-like beings standing up on the shore. Was like this upside-down world, accessible through vortex canals in the depths of the water.
I love how far AI imagery's gotten us. I'm really like, ooh, yeah, because that's the perfect medium for this type of story. It's like, ooh, that's kind of weird. That's kind of quirky, like that uncanny valley like thing about it. Where this isn't the first time I heard like Hollow Earth is somehow wrapped into all of the aliens.
Already, so that's why I think we should play with it.
I'm glad you brought it, because that's one of the very, very few crackpot theories that I'm like whole hog in. whole hogging. There's no,
Really?
we really don't have, like, on the same end, like, there's no proof that aliens exist. Like, there's no proof there's, like, we're not just like 20, 30 miles thick of just like crust. And then there's a bunch of other stuff down there.
Google this. How wild is it that our understanding of like the crust, the mantle, and the core is just a theory?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
How dare you teach that to me in elementary school like a scientific law, and then just be like, I don't know, we're just guessing.
There's like an iron ball in the center, and it's kind of moving around.
Have you been to the iron ball? No.
Do you know
what
how
makes you think there is one? I'm thinking
because the movie Core told me so. They had to drill down to the core to save the Earth. They told me that's how Earth is made.
But like as far as we've ever actually dug down in the ground,
Ricky's reaction in
it's like a mile. It's the only time. Like the Marianas Trench is like the furthest we can go down. That's it. And then we just don't know. And we dug some dirt and whatever for like a mile on like our own, and that's about it. So we don't truly know what's in between like the North and South Pole because we never actually seen it. There's theories. There's probably some good, very scientific theories on what's going on there. But again, there's no like practical, actual evidence. Like if I were to describe to you freezing of water into ice and you don't believe me, like, well, let me show you. But if I can't procure that, there's always going to be a little bit of skepticism in your head. Yeah, like there's all sorts of different applications for this, but this one is like I can see it. I can see it being real.
Oh, for sure.
And how they enter through the water, because it's the deepest part. It's easier to go through the water than actually is going through, Earth and all that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or how you can actually just go into the South Pole by yourself. You can't just, charter your own ship with your own money.
Treaty, like we can't get any of the countries to agree on anything, but somehow we're able to get them to agree on nobody can go to the ice wall. I mean, can go to Antarctica.
Yeah. No one can go. That's real weird. No one else does that.
I don't buy that at all.
Yep.
But rapping thoughts, Ricky. What are your rapping thoughts on this whole deal?
Shit. I believe we're just an insect in this old fucking big boy text of shit. I don't know. Like they're
Silent. What are your rapping thoughts?
His mind's
they're
blown.
real. Like they're real. Like what do you want? What do you want from me?
Yeah,
something other than shit and Silent. What are your rapping thoughts?
The thing is, they've basically just come out and said it. Something that we've been suspected and known for the longest time now. And we now have like an A-OK, a 2 thumbs up. Like, yes, guys, this is real. Yes, we've seen it. Yes, there's videos of it. And no, we don't know really much about it because it literally is as fast as like anything we've ever seen. And I think the reality of it is, as I said before, to the average person, this really does not matter at all. And if you think about it, like if you kind of like zoom out a little bit, if there actually is a species that can create such objects that can like defy the laws of physics as we know it, then that just shows us that we have a lot of discovery to do and a lot of catching up to do on a lot of technological advancements, because obviously if people saw it with their own eyes, then there's obviously a species of things or beings or whatever they are that are capable of building these UFOs. Of course, it's going to be only a matter of time before we are, as humans, are capable of building these UFOs ourselves too.
Oh, wait. I thought we were still trying to figure out the battery.
That's true.
Right. But you see, we don't get that kind of technology. That kind of technology is for governments, right? Because the government is always 20, 30 years technologically ahead of all of us, right?
Yeah.
Even with the batteries, by the way. So
exactly. That means the battery of our future already exists.
It's out there, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, my argument is that we will not have access to it. Us people, normal, regular, average day people will not have access to that technology. Same thing with the UFOs and the ability to, go 1,000 G forces in a second and bend physics and dip up and down and left and sink into the depth of the ocean in like 2 seconds. Yeah, we're not going to get that technology. Like I said, the government might have its hands on it, or they might have a way to develop it or study or understand it, and it probably won't be classified for another, 50 plus years, just like how it took them 50 years just to confirm that UFOs are real.
Well, you know what? Let them have it, because that means I have a G-force plane that I'm casually flying around. So.
Hey, maybe they'll bring back the Concorde. Who knows?
For my rapid thoughts, I'm going to say one of the things that the Congress, at the testimony, one of the things that was brought up is, what are these things? Well, we don't know. We know that the objects are flying around at these astronomical numbers, and it's something that we currently can't achieve, but we don't know what that actually means. We don't know what's driving it. Is it remotely controlled like a drone, or is there something in it? And spoiler alert, so if you haven't seen the movie Nope, click off for a second. But this is old enough, so I have no empathy for you. That movie will forever hold a special place in my heart as one of my favorite alien type, UFO type movies ever, because it was so original. You've never seen a story about a UFO like that before. You've had UFOs where aliens are driving it and they're picking people up, but never has the spaceship, UFO, unidentified flying object, has that ever object been the organic alien itself. I thought that was so cool that this is like an organic animal, that the mouth is under its bottom and it sucks things up and it's got giant teeth and it eats these people. It's like, that's totally original. And that's kind of the imagination you have to have as we're moving forward in this thing, because this is going to shatter everything that has built your conventional reality. And you have to be prepared to adapt. So yeah, like Doug was bringing up and we've mentioned, yes, we've been socialized and conditioned to be prepared for these things. But the reality is, you're never going to be totally prepared for what's to come. So you just got to ride the wave and know that this is going to change everything that you've held as truth up until this point. And this is the warning. The government's kind of going like, hey, just warning you, we're not giving you all the details now, but everything you think is truth is going to change. It's going to change your relationship with your religion, with your atmosphere, your community, and just get ready for it. So I don't know, interesting. And I just find it oddly comical that once it's released to the public, people are like, nah. I mean, even the news barely reports it because people are just so, What are your rapid thoughts?
Well, this is starting to make a little bit more sense why Elon Musk's been hanging around the new administration here.
He wants that technology.
He wants that technology. He wants a little bit of that access, and he's willing to, maybe he's willing to take a little hit on the tariff with it. 'Cause he's all very interested. And guess where he's going in the next couple of days? He's going down to Texas to see these rockets over here in person. So maybe there might be a little cross congressional. Yeah, he's getting access to we're going to, Teslas and SpaceXs are going to be the new, thing of the past with what he's got cooking up here. So that's my wrapping thought. Now, Silent really, you know what? Silent, I attribute that wrapping thought to you.
Yeah, touche. All right, Dougie, wrapping thought.
So if aliens are real and we have their technology, the one congressman mentioned the Artemis program. I think that is like our attempt to go back into to the moon and set up some sort of platform to go out into space. So if we have alien technology, I assume that would help us with that. But my actual wrapping thought would be this: if aliens are real and they're coming here, I would like to think it's like Star Trek, where they came here peacefully and they're trying to help us better ourselves. That's just I'd like to have that point of view. Not the they're here to slowly take over and destroy humanity. I'd rather have the optimistic Star Trek First Contact view.
And the reality is we're at their mercy no matter what. So all we have to do is hope.
Yeah.
All right, so this next topic is a very peculiar one. I'm pretty excited for it, and I'm excited to hear everybody in the room's thoughts. So is everybody familiar with Dear Abby, like that concept with newspapers, what a Dear Abby section is?
I might be, but maybe our audience doesn't.
Yeah, well, clearly I will also articulate it. I just want to see the level of retard you are. Do you know what it is?
No, actually, I do not. This is all new information for me.
Oh my god!
I am part of the retards.
So a Dear Abby section in newspapers, for those that don't know, are, somebody, it used to be Abby, go figure.
Okay.
But then people personified themselves as an Abby, and you would write into the New York Times or your local newspaper, and you'd have like a concern, or it's an advice column, and you ask, Dear Abby, here's my issue. Can you give me some advice on what I can do? So a colleague at work grabs me and he goes, you will never believe how absurd this article is in the Plain Dealer. And he gives me the article. And the article is written by Lucas Deprile. I don't care. And I didn't need to care. Thanks, Lucas. So, and we'll get to that. But the article title is, how do I tell other drivers sorry if I make a mistake on the road? Okay. I'm going to go through the whole thing so you can live this with me. The first line under the image of the Bedford Freeway is, and again, I can't display it on here because it's the Plain Dealer, the Cleveland Plain Dealer. So I just have like a copy of the article itself. It goes from there to Cleveland.com's Ask Lucas has answers. They may not be good answers, but they are answers from Cleveland.com.
Wait, it really says that?
Yes. So if someone offers you a hand gesture, give them a love tap. Dear Lucas, is there a nonverbal wave or sign that a driver can give to say, sorry, my bad? I myself am a faultless operator and have no need for any sign besides an appreciative wave when I cut in at the last minute of a lane merge. But my girlfriend often turns in front of someone with the right of way, or blows through a crosswalk with a pedestrian, or rides the turn only lane when going straight. She knows she's dangerously careless and would love to tell the people giving her the finger that she has messed up. But a simple wave doesn't convey I'm sorry. So do you know of, or could you recommend to her some hand signal that asks her potential victims to forgive her? Lucas has the answer. Dear reader, a faultless operator, you say? A few years ago, I nearly ran someone off the road by accident, and he pulled next to me, rolled down his window, and tried arguing with me. I just told him, I'm sorry, I didn't see you, a few times, and eventually he calmed down and told me to have a nice day. No, this isn't sarcasm, and went from full-bore screaming to wishing me well in about 15 seconds and then drove off. What we need is love. I was lucky in this situation. The other driver was forgiving, albeit mentally unstable fellow traveler, but it's not always possible to talk or even make a hand signal to another driver. Instead of doing something dangerous like that, like waving, give the driver a nice little love tap. I'm not telling you to T-bone them at the intersection, but just give them a little bump with your bumper. It's like giving them a high five or a comforting pat on the back, but with your car. Naturally, keep in mind the size differences between your two cars. SUVs and pickup trucks, for instance, have a lot of shock absorption. So you have to make sure you know you're really sorry for your actions by love tapping them harder than coupes and sedans. The same goes for elderly drivers and student drivers. Elderly folks don't hear as well, so you'll have to hit them harder.
Oh my dear
Student
God.
drivers are just the opposite. They're so distracted by their phones, you need to make sure that they can feel the love tap of your car. Same goes for cars with children inside. Teach the children how to have manners by bumping into their cars slightly harder than others. I hope you're not thinking that you're worried. I hope you're not thinking that you're worried about this leading to serious accidents. The nationwide traffic fatality rate has been declining steadily since the 70s, so there's nothing to worry about. Plus, it can't be a quote-unquote accident if it's intentional. So, look at the handsome fella. His name is Lucas, and he'll be writing more columns like this, despite common sense saying to stop while he's ahead. If you want to send hate mail or for some reason ask for advice, send an email to, and they provide his email address. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh my God, dude. So, okay. Even if someone just tapped the back of my car, I'm getting that motherfucker's information because you realize every modern car has those sensors and everything in the back like that. They all have these sensors now. Even the most basic versions have backup sensors, at least, and like you hit those, you break those. That's a lot of money to fix, recalibrate, replace. Like, oh, if some bitch even loves tap my car, I'm getting that bitch's information.
So my colleague gives me this. He's like, man, he's all frustrated by this. He's been sharing it with his family and friends because it's so absurd. And, I made the comment, I go, that may have worked like 40 years ago when bumpers were actually bumpers. But now your bumper is like a plastic shield that's made to shatter to help absorption. So the bumper doesn't even function like it used to.
It's not bumper cars.
And this is how it's been sold to me, right? This is the advice column in the Plain Dealer. He's totally triggered by it. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was so absurd. So what does he do? He gets me the actual article. I have read to you every word that was associated with this. And we go back to it today after getting a little bit more perspective. We go, wait. What section in the newspaper was this even found? It was in the CLE Life section of the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and it was under other pertinent articles. Like it was talking about life and facts, by the way. So I'm one thinking this is absolutely crazy, and I was going to do a different angle to this conversation. So I reached out to Lucas, and I was like, hey, Lucas.
Oh, all right.
Would you be on our show? I know it's last minute, and it's the day of, but would you be willing to? And he was interested, willing to play ball for a while, and made it very clear. I hope you do realize that this is a totally satire piece, Doug, so cool down. But as I talked it out with him more, the Plain Dealer and he had decided that he must abstain from the appearance. So, I'm willing to try to be a colleague and a coworker in this medium with corporate media. But at the same time, you are the enemy. And this was your opportunity to keep yourself relevant with a whole new audience in a new modern format that is totally leaving you behind. And so because you decided to forego, we could take this angle in a totally different way. And I want to make it very clear. There was nothing on here that lends it to believe that it's satire beyond, if you're reading through the lines now, ask Lucas, the guy that has answers. They may not be good answers, but they are answers. Okay, so there's a little bit of a comedic tone to like, we give bad answers, and look at this handsome fella, his name and blah, 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 blah. Despite common sense saying to stop while he's ahead, you can continue to read his column. So here's what's funny. The colleague, the gentleman that brought this to my attention, prior to him coming to discover that this was satire, he emailed the guy concerned because, hey, guy, there's nothing in the article. There's no language that indicates this is satire and that you should not be taking this as advice. And it could open the door to some dangerous, behaviors. So I want to get to a viewer submission where I was able to get the perspective of somebody that got duped by this letter.
Oh, I'm glad you cleared this all up that it's satire, but reading this, what caught my eye was, hey, how can I tell I'm sorry to another driver? Nothing in this article says that, oh, just kidding, it's just not right, because somebody's going to read this like I did and go, holy crap, I can tap this guy and not get killed or have the other occupant come out and say whiplash because now I tapped them in the back bumper, and that's the first sign of whiplash. So thanks a lot. I appreciate you clearing this up for me. I originally sent this guy an email because I had a couple other people read it and they were like, oh my God. So I reached out to him, never heard back from him. And now, guess what? I'm finding from another person that it was all a joke. And it's not a joke because people look at what they put in the paper and take it for granted. And somebody's going to come to court and say, hey, guess what? This Lucas said I can love tap him. And it's a good way of saying, I'm sorry.
So, I kind of respect the person that like The Onion. The Onion is known for being a faux, like fake publisher. So, but how many people fall for Onion articles like they're real? But you're supposed to just know that The Onion is fake. Why? There's literally nothing on there to indicate it. So now, not only are we being inundated by, false realities, lies and everything else, but now you've got things that aren't even intended to be true. They're such a joke. They're so absurd. But they're packaged in such a way that it's almost impossible to distinguish. Like, the guy reading this clearly knows, oh, this is insane. I would never do that. But the concerning thing to the reader is there somebody with a giant platform that can get 1 million readers and they think this is the best thing to promote to the public? Like, again, even if that isn't your intention, just statistics, basic numbers are going to tell you that somebody's bound to fall for that. And are you liable? So keeping with the theme of fictions becoming a reality, you created a fiction as a joke. And it has become the power you don't realize you wield, and the power that massive broadcast brings about is you could create a danger and you don't even realize you've created a totally fake reality for people, and it's unbeknownst to you, and you're not doing anything to correct the record. You just chuckle every Sunday you release the Plain Dealer, and every Monday you chuckle at a giant handful of idiots that didn't realize that it was a joke. But what have you done to lead them to believe it's a joke?
Well, do I call this a vintage troll? Is this like the postmodern vintage troll? There's something uniquely fascinating about this, because we say print media and traditional media is dead, but it does carry with it a significant amount of trust, because you read it on the paper, and I wonder if it's because we trust in it because we've been grown up to believe that this is a business, they have to be trustworthy. That's kind of the whole process of what they're doing here. But at the same time, we could probably go like CNN, Fox, major news. Like, the bigger the news gets, the more truth maybe gets a little bit blurred with activism or your agenda. So you start blurring it that way. But when we get like medium-sized news, is the agenda views? Is it a troll? Is this is this traditional in print media where there's just some troll in the newspaper and you have to fish it out yourself? So we grew up with print media, but we never like really used it like we used some of the media we have today.
Another thing to balance this with is cool, funny troll. Everybody loves a troll. My Reddit buddy here is always gonna love a troll, but there's a whole nother impact to like this style of story. It's one thing to make the joke of, hey, there's a salt that you could find in mayonnaise that is better than your regular soap, and so you should be washing your hands with mayonnaise. And then what does that result in? A couple hundred people sloshing around mayonnaise. It's like, oh, gotcha. Mayonnaise. It's just mayonnaise. But this is driving your dead machine into other people. And you should be looking for cars with children in it and hitting them harder. It's like, it's so absurd. Should you recognize that it's a joke? Yes. Hence why there's 50 articles in the Plain Dealer past Sunday, and this is the only one you're talking about, Bob, and it's because it's so absurd.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take away the impact or like the Plain Dealer's position. That's going to be, this is so absurd that you should recognize that this is satire. But you can't be the same Plain Dealer that endorses Kamala Harris on the basis that we need censorship and there's all this fake news and the right is living in this fake reality full of bullshit, and then you are creating
Literal
fake
fake news.
Or you're
literal fake news.
you're
And then you go,
publishing.
but it was a joke. But you did nothing. You did literally nothing. Like, you don't think you owe it to the... I don't know how many people read the Plain Dealer, because, again, it's a totally dying art for a reason.
Most people get it online now, I think.
No, this is where it came from. But, again, that number is not larger than Joe Rogan's audience. So what's the number of the Cleveland Plain Dealer? All I'm saying is, out of, let's say, 50,000 viewers, I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
100,000? Can't be a million. Maybe it is.
Let's call it 250,000, because there's probably a couple million within the Cleveland area.
Let's just say you got 250,000 readers. You're saying you don't owe it to 250,000 readers to have even a line at the bottom that says this is all for satirical purposes. I can't even watch Jackass without you telling me not to jump into the pile of cactuses.
And I
before
can't
every
buy
movie.
And I can't buy hot coffee without there saying caution hot on the freaking lid, you know?
Right.
Or a car commercial that has a professional driver in a closed course. Don't do this. Well, that's weird. So you bring up a good point on some of the legality of this, because it definitely is there. I don't know. I think there's been satirical articles in newspaper for a while. I think there's a lot of precedent for this. This isn't necessarily unique. It's just now it's dying so much and it's absurd. Like, whoa, let's hold on here. Is this like the save button moment for like Gen Alpha? Gen Alpha looks at a save button and doesn't realize like that's a real thing. That's a floppy disk. We've dealt with floppy disk. Is this ours? We're like, every fucking newspaper has a little funny satirical. Don't do this in us.
Dear Abby isn't satire. That's
it's supposed to be serious stuff.
But I don't know if this is necessarily a Dear Abby.
It's Dear Lucas.
So that, again, that runs part of the satirical nature of it. I think there's some works of fiction that we really love it's just all satire that we believe it to be. Like, I don't know, like the Romans, like some famous guy in Rome or whatever. He wrote these satirical books making fun of the people who love his satirical books. Like there's just kind of like fourth, fifth, some of these people really get way up into their own buttholes about themselves, and there's a level of satire that even you just can't understand. Like, you show someone like a deep fried meme, you show your grandma a deep fried meme, they don't know what's going on. She'll show you a satirical article.
I don't even know what a deep fried meme is. How am I supposed to expect grandma to?
Well, see, that's just the level of internet intelligence that I have that you don't.
Listen, I'll give it to you. What's a deep fried meme?
I'd have to show you. It's a visual medium, really. I don't know if I can accurately explain it through the voice. Then you would just say, all right.
Continue.
But I think there is satire has always been around in print medium, and is this our opportunity to actually
so it's just
see
this grainy crap?
Well, not necessarily. There's a little bit more to it than that.
No.
It's taking an existing meme and deep frying it and really going like absurd, and it's like a meme of a meme.
You are a Reddit.
Did you just call me a Redditor?
Yeah, look at this. This is a whole world I didn't know there was a name for this.
Yeah, it's a deep fried meme.
We're
starting to go out of style now. It's getting now that we can put memes in like GIF memes. Yeah, it's really taken over.
What's the attraction to this? Like, where's the one that really? I think it was Farquaad
Farquaad was the
I never
probably one of the
understood
most
that.
popular one, or the Musk, or not the
What is this? What is the E? What is explain?
well, so this one, oh geez, there's a lot of layers to this one. So we start off. Remember the Mark Zuckerberg, the Zuck, because that's where that picture comes from. We put Lord Farquaad on there, and then there was so there's a Reddit community called the Dank Memes, and there was just a bunch of like E. And they just started like all these memes start colliding into each other until it's really like I get what that means because I understand like 3 different memes coming together all at the same time. I understand. Well, I understood those meme talks. I'm out of like new meme culture now. Like I just don't get it.
But you expect grandma to figure it out.
Well, see, that's the same thing with the satire. So I'm telling you about the satires. Like this might be level 1, level 2 satire, but there's a certain point you're like reading a story you really like oh shit, this is actually about me. The level of satire, and when you get it, like it ruins the whole thing for you. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying this is one of those, and we're now experiencing it. This is our floppy disk moment.
Silent, what are your rapid thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, honestly, look, all of these satire websites like The Onion and stuff, I totally agree with you. They need to at least put a LOL JK at the end, or maybe like some sort of fine print. Only a fool would take what is written in these articles seriously. Like something, like some line or some sort of indicator that this is a parody, right? Like you remember how on Twitter before Elon bought Twitter mandated that if you had a parody page, you put between brackets that it's a parody, right? I don't know if you guys remember that rule.
I do remember that.
Oh,
yep.
yeah.
You used to get banned on Twitter if you don't put parody between brackets in your username. So I totally like, I really truly believe that all of these websites need to have some sort of indicator somewhere, either on the article or next to the logo or on the front page that, hey, look, this is all satire. It's a meme. It's a troll. It's a joke. I mean, shit, even if you go like on 4chan, there's a disclaimer as well now on 4chan that, hey, listen.
Especially for Cleveland Plain Dealer, this is a respected website in Cleveland, like a respected newspaper in Cleveland.
Right.
You think they'd say that it's satire. That's the
100%.
point there. You'd expect it.
Exactly, right? And especially when it's like you guys are a newspaper that doesn't always publish trolly stuff like, for example, The Onion does, right? So if you're publishing legit articles and you decide to troll, at least put something, like some sort of indicator, because you're going to mislead a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of people that are bumping into each other for no reason.
Ricky, what do you think?
I feel like that guy that wrote that shit is stupid. I thought when Alex was reading it, I'm stupid. So as a stupid person hearing that, I'm like, oh, felonies are down in Ohio. I can just, like hit and runs are cool now because that's all that is. That's a hit and run. Like I don't. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's stupid. Like who does that? There is no jokes, no punchline, no like. Okay, this is what we're aiming for. No setup. There's nothing to it that made me. Oh, it's satire. It's me trying to be funny, comical.
And Ricky, you get it too. You're from Cleveland, Ohio. You know that Cleveland Plain Dealer is a respected thing.
Respected. And so I'm surprised this Plain Dealer is still here. I'm surprised the Plain Dealer is still here.
Oh, dude,
honestly,
it's barely alive. It's all online now, dude. My dad pays a lot of money for their online.
You're advertising a felony, hit and run felony. You're advertising someone, bump them, and just keep going because that's a love tap. That's a felony. That's hit and run.
No, hitting someone with your car is not a felony.
And hold up,
hitting a person with your car is a felony.
And we're not even professional drivers, yo. We're not professional drivers, right? So we can't gauge what speed another car is going. So you gauge the wrong speed and they go skid off and hit another car, go in the ditch. You're facing homicide, like manslaughter or something. Like
that is what he's advocating for. He's not saying hit a love tap and then stay there.
Yeah.
Well,
you're not a professional. You can't gauge that shit.
Moving. That's a felony. I'm with Ricky.
Hit and run.
Off base. My rapid thought is going to be this. First off, like I already said, Plain dealer, you lost your chance at staying modern and relevant. I hope you enjoy being buried like the dinosaurs. We will happily, display your bones on our walls to show everybody the archives of what you used to be as we carry the torch that you built for us. But let's be real. This comes back to a topic that we have reserved for another day, so I don't want to get into it too much.
Ooh.
But we had kind of flirted with it in our group chat about how you really should have to display some sort of identity online. At this point, there's free speech, but is anonymous speech free speech? That is, like I said, a conversation for another day. But like Silence said, protocols that require a parody account to identify themselves as parody only has safety benefits. There really is not much harm that's outweighed by people, it's going to lose its effect. It's going to lose what effect? The effect of tricking people? Then you're admitting you're trying to trick people. Either you proclaim that it's parody and you're willing for them to know it's parody, because it wouldn't take away from the art, the humor, or the enjoyment of it, because it's parody. That's its purpose. But if you're actually just trying to dupe me, then that is pretty crooked. That is something that deserves policing, that this shouldn't just be left to the wild, wild west. So it's disappointing the cat, Lucas, didn't. I would have loved to hear his thoughts, because I imagine this is something he goes through every Monday. But, an opportunity to get some airtime and maybe a little bit more fame, a human being will drop a hat to be like, well, what do you got? What do you got? Hey, we'd love to have you on our show. Do you think what do you got? People want to talk to me. It expands me. You want to talk about me? But when a concerned citizen's like, hey, what the fuck? You just put this on paper, and this is incredibly dangerous. You'll get back to me at the Rethink Tank, but you don't think it's justified to get back to the citizen that's like, hey, this is dangerous. You don't think that the subscriber that pays money to your Plain Dealer should be, I don't know, let in on the joke? You're going to just keep them lost in the abyss? So I think the clown nose is left for nobody but the Plain Dealer. And you just keep marching into the abyss as we just laugh at your ridiculousness. Rapid thoughts.
Well, instead of interviewing the person who wrote the article, I'd like to actually interview the person who fell for the article. Do you still believe Santa exists?
Doug, he's right fucking there.
Well, Doug's not. Well, he'll love tap me after the end of the show.
My reaction, nonetheless, to an article is you should never tell people to hit another person, whether it's sarcasm or not.
Come on,
you shouldn't tell someone to hit.
Did you fall for this article, or did you read this article and go, maybe I should tap someone with my car? That might be the best.
No, my first reaction is cars nowadays are too technologically advanced to just tap.
Even the viewer that submitted something, didn't read this and leave it going, oh, I'm adopting this advice. But it was alarming to them. It was interpreted and internalized as true advice that they see as so dangerous and absurd they would never themselves implement, but am also highly concerned that somebody else may believe this to be good advice. So that's the person we're talking about. Let's be real. Darwinism, if somebody actually takes this as advice, we've got a problem.
Careening off the cliff here. But I'm still this is like a vintage troll. This is like a new art form. I wonder if I could exploit this for my own. You could just start ladies and gentlemen at home, you can write to any of your newspapers and just start throwing things at the wall. Maybe they might just publish it, and you get the little satisfaction that they have it on their, on your website. Someone talks about it on their internet show. There might be a podcast about it, who knows? But I think this is like a vintage troll, and I'm savoring just every little bit of it. There's something just really great.
Monday mornings is awesome.
Oh,
Monday morning, you log into that email and you just watch it. Like everybody fumed all Sunday. You and the Browns just caused terror in Cleveland all Sunday.
I wonder if Lucas has a track record of these advice emails. I'm sure he. Oh,
That's what I wanted to get from the interview the most was some of the stories of the absurd reactions.
It's like, what do you got cooking up here? I'd probably give him some suggestions.
You'd be good for suggestions. Dougie, wrapping thoughts?
I would expect more from the Plain Dealer as a respected Cleveland newspaper. That is my wrapping thought.
Cheers. I can appreciate that. Well, thanks to everybody that joined us in the comments. You know, the whole purpose of the live show is to get you involved. So thank you for adding a whole nother perspective and dynamic to the conversation we got going on here. We had some fun topics, and, you know, it was good to get a little different flavor and palette than what we've had the last couple of weeks. So appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We do a live show also on Sundays. Doug and I, we got our Sunday football review, but before that at 11, we also have our reactions channel where we got funny and wild internet videos. But join us for the football one because we're hitting our parlays. You could get in on this. Is like the stock market. Get in while we're making bank. Make bank. So, you know, wake up, have a cup of coffee with us, and then have some laughs. You can join us Sunday. But also, Silent and I have been tearing it up on Fortnite. I've got some because they've brought back an old style map. I got some of my friends coming back too. So we're gonna have a lot of dubs to look forward to. So also just for us on Twitch. But let me bring in the Pickle Gallery so we can thank the guys. Silent, thanks for joining us. Tell them where they could find you.
Kick.com/SilentDestroyer. We're live every day. We got a big fat Fortnite dub yesterday, so make sure to tune in as well. We're going to be getting more.
I love it. I love it. Ricky, tell them where they can find you.
To the people of the world. Hey, just another day TV, everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'll be doing some IRL streams. Silent got me some equipment. Well, he told me what to got. I got it. And yeah, the IRL stream is going to be lit on Twitch at the right way. You know what I'm saying? Because there's only one way. It's the right way. We outside.
I love that. The right way. Just another day TV. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. So like I was saying, we've got all this different content from our Sunday show to the podcast. We got a new episode of the podcast coming out. I have a fun you can look forward to. So here's where I'm at. That's going to be pretty spicy. So we got a lot of great content coming your way, and you can find it all in one central place, and that's at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. But otherwise, guys, I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next week. Peace.